You don't watch these videos because they're destroying your bloody argument. Or should I say, you do watch them and then you proclaim that you're not going to show them. You got what you get from the gist of it, and you know that it's defeating you, and then you just ignore it because you're a liar. As in your latest one where you say, oh, I'm not going to play his video because it's got nothing to do with physics. But let's just look at the comments. Shall we have a look at the comments? Why would you do that, you disgusting thing? You say I don't account for the marker on the scale. You liar. I did a video where I did tests that eliminate any effect of the scale and proved that it worked accurately and there was no momentum in the marker, proving kinetic energy again. You liar. Don't say which one it is because you don't want to know. If you want to know, I'll find it and I'll send you a link. This is what I want to get to. This is for Dark Endless Pit. And this will prove to you, if you're honest, that Gary is a liar. If you launch a one mass, he says, if you launch this at one velocity, it'll get this far, one distance on one mass. And if you launch the same mass, if you launch the one mass at twice velocity, it would go two distance. That's quite correct. But he's being deceptive. That's not the experiment that we're talking about that Stephen did, or anybody can do. It's been done a million times. What it proves is kinetic energy is king here. It's a proof of kinetic energy. Why? We use the same spring compression to launch a one mass, and we use the same spring compression to launch the half mass. If the spring launches the one mass to here, Gary says that the half mass must be launched at two velocities, which would get to the two distance. What it proves is that the spring does not have the energy to launch the half mass to two distance. It only gets to about 1.4, which is here, proving the kinetic energy, because this is the velocity and the energy is contained a square of the velocity, and it can't get to two distance because that would be more energy than what it started out as. It's got nothing to do with where it lands. It's proving that the spring cannot launch the half mass to two distance. It will only launch it to 1.4, proving the conservation of energy, the kinetic energy. Gary is deliberately deceiving you by not talking about this and talking about something else, about the ratio of 1 to 2 distance, and everybody, all the physicists will tell you that it falls here, and it, you know, that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're showing. He's lying to you. He's deceiving you. What I mean to say in a more calm way, the physics and the physicists will tell you that the one mass at one velocity will go here, and if it's launched at double the velocity, it will travel double the distance. It's to show that the force of gravity in a vertical direction is independent of the velocity in a horizontal direction. But that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that the spring cannot launch the half mass to double the distance. It hasn't got enough energy, because this is the distance it must go to conserve kinetic energy. He's lying. He knows this debunks him, and he's twisting it to get around it. Dark Endless. He's pleading for somebody to explain why this doesn't prove it's a time gravity, it's a time-dependent force. We've been over it and over it. A constant force means that it's constant, it's unvarying, it does not change. A constant force means that a force does not change by any parameter. It's constant, whether it's time independent. If it's a constant force, it's time independent. Doesn't matter how long you're in the force, if it's a constant force. He's contradicting himself. This example is not a constant force because we're going through it. We're going out of the force. If the ship's here, it's not in the force. If it's here, it's in. And if it's here, it's out. So it can't be a constant force. So it's not time that's the factor. If it's a constant force, it cannot be time dependent. Time has no effect on a constant force. He's contradicting himself. Remember, Dark Endless. If he says, well, prove this experiment, he won't prove it because it's been done 1,000 times. Any of us can do it. It's the most simple experiment. But what it does show is what he doesn't like. That a certain amount of energy stored in a spring will not launch the half mass to twice the distance as he says it does. It only launches it about 1.4 the distance because it's conserving the kinetic energy. It proves kinetic energy. This is what Stephen Bro's experiment showed, and this is what 1,000 of them would show if we all did it. Please, get a grip of yourself, man.